Welcome to Find Your Lady Tribe. My name is Brenda,
And I am Michelle.
and it's our mission to build a community of lady tribes, a place to connect and grow your tribe with resources, ideas, workshops, retreats, and events. We invite you to join our inner circle and become a tribe leader. It's free!
Each week, we will start a conversation about connecting within your tribe and across all of our tribes. Our goal is to create 1,000 new lady tribes in 2022. And each episode will challenge you with a call to action. The first one is to join our inner circle. Go to tinyurl.com/myladytribe. And as a gratitude gift, we will send you a downloadable copy of Chapter 1 of Lady and the Tribe, The Awakening.
Yay! So please subscribe to be notified of a new episode each week. Hey, everybody. Welcome to Find Your Lady Tribe. My name is Brenda Ridgely. And as you can see, I am here solo again. I mean, not exactly solo, but my sidekick, Michelle, is not with me today, but she is thinking about us and she says hello to y'all. She is on an extended vacation in Mexico, celebrating and getting some much needed R&R. So we are all a little jealous here, but wishing her well. And she is absolutely thinking of you all today. So again, thanks for being here. I'm really excited to be here with a friend, colleague, and just a super dynamic, interesting lady that has a lot to share. And I think a lot of great information that you can personally benefit from. Her name is Allie Stone, and leadership is in Allie's blood. It's her passion to help powerful, game-changing leaders step into their full potential. She bases her leadership style on what she has come to call transcendent leadership. Now, through her organization, The Inspired Leader, Allie shares these insights with organizations and leaders alike. Together, they deep dive into what it means to go beyond, to lead from a place of presence and connection, creating an opportunity to experience your career in a way that previously has not been deemed possible. It is her goal to help you ignite the leader within so you can inspire the world around you. So welcome, Allie.
Thanks, Brenda. I'm so excited to be here with you today and to have this conversation. I think this is going to be very enlightening for myself as well. So looking forward to spending time with you.
Yeah, I'm just really excited to talk to you on a topic. When we hear leadership and career and all that, we think, oh, this is going to be just another one of those business podcasts or something. And that's not what we're all about here. But I think your message and what you and I have connected on in the past few months absolutely will resonate with the women here, because your message is all behind, I believe, creating the passion and the power behind your leadership position, in whatever arena you lead, in your family, in your friendships, in your community. And it's one of my personal goals to help women kind of see that and reconnect to that powerful place and be able to give back like we all love to do from a position of strength. So Allie, would you just kind of share with us a little bit about you and why you do what you do?
Sure. Sounds good. Well, thank you for the beautiful introduction. I super appreciate that. And just to your last comments there, 100% agree. It is all integrated. If we are struggling in our career, we are probably struggling in our life. We are struggling in our life at home. We are probably struggling in our career. And so I really don't like to use the term work-life balance. I like to say integration, because I feel like when we understand that life is a little bit messy and everything touches each other, it's easier to work with, right? We don't try to silo things. So my company is called The Inspired Leader, and I work with professional women who are struggling with overwhelm. So who are struggling to find their way in their career, or maybe have lost that sense of purpose as to why they started doing what they do. And so my goal is to really help them get back to doing the work that they love, because I often say, you started this for a reason. You were in love with it at some point. At some juncture, we fell off, right? We fell off the path. But I think it's worth exploring as to whether or not that's a path you want to get back on. And if you don't, that's okay. but at least we can know that answer before you move on, and you can move on in a more empowered way. And so I love what I do. I feel so blessed to get to work with amazing women leaders and entrepreneurs. And yeah, it's just such an incredible journey for me. So it's been a lot of fun.
Oh, awesome. Overwhelm. I mean, I think we can all relate to that, especially women who have families that is, they're obviously their number one priority, and then a career that they're balancing alongside, or whatever it is that, that takes some of their time. We all get overwhelmed. What are some of the strategies that you suggest and provide to women to kind of identify it and move through it?
Oh, this is huge. Well, okay. So first, I think when we're starting to experience overwhelm, I think there's 3 phases. So I talk about 3 phases, and I think it starts initially with stress. So we start to feel stressed. We start to feel like things are heavy. The second phase we move into is overwhelm. And this is where it starts to be like, oh my God, I don't know how I'm going to do this all, right? And then the third phase, which is the dangerous phase, is burnout. At this point, we have to stop. We have to really recalibrate. We have to wind down before we can get back to what we're doing. So we never want to get to the burnout phase. We want to be really cognizant of that, because it really changes our life and it changes what we're capable of. So the stress, and once we get to this overwhelm is a very big indicator that things are getting heavy, that there's a lot going on. And so I think in our lives to recognize that we are overwhelmed. For me personally, I definitely think I become tired. I think there's a big lack of clarity for me. I start to be feel, like I'm kind of swimming through the muck, swimming through the weeds and trying to figure it out. And I can't quite see a path. That's usually an indicator that I'm getting overwhelmed. And I also find I do a lot of work in I'm a certified meditation teacher, and I'm certified heart math personal resilience mentor. So I do a lot of body work too with the women that I work with. And I think understanding the signals that our body is sending us, not just our mind, are really important, because our body will send us those overwhelm signals even before our mind registers what's going on. And so if we can start to learn to speak the language of our body and understand the messages that our body is sending us, we really lessen that risk of getting into overwhelm and even burnout. And so those messages, I mean, we know those, but they're headaches, they're tense shoulders, they're clenching our jaws, they're muscle cramps, all of these things. It's different for everybody. But I think if you start to think about it, you start to recognize what those are for you and when they're creeping up. And so I think those are the things that you would recognize for sure. And then to move through overwhelm, well, I think that requires strategy for sure. I think once you realize you're overwhelmed, you have to be like, okay, I'm in a place where I need to think about my next steps. Because if you're unconscious about that, I think that's when we keep on the path to that burnout stage, and we have to get really conscious. So I always suggest things like starting to become present in the moment, because if we're overwhelmed, like I said, we're swimming through those weeds. There's not a lot of presence in that, right? You're fishing around in the dark.
Just trying to survive.
Yes, for lack of quoting the song. Right? But you know what I mean? Yes, you're totally just trying to survive. And so becoming present and starting to really anchor into the present moment is so important, because if we're overwhelmed, we've lost touch with that. And truthfully, Brenda, that's all we have, right? The present moment is all we have. And so if we're going to spend all our time in the future or all our time in the past, we're missing out on the experience of life right now. And
yeah, that's where our power is. You're right. We have no power in the past or in the future. It's all we've got is right now. Absolutely.
Totally. Yeah. And so, I mean, that's where I always start.
Yeah, I love that. So you mentioned how it affects your body, and I love how you incorporate that in, because a lot of times we kind of just assume it's an external thing that's making our neck hurt or giving us the headache or making us feel tired. It's something external to us, but it actually can well up from within as a sign that things could be running a little smoother internally.
I think it's really important, because if we ignore those messages, your body will keep sending them, and it'll keep turning up the volume, turning up the volume, turning up the volume, until, God forbid, one day you wake up and you're sick, and you have something that you can't recover from, something you can't take a break and recalibrate from, because your body was sending you messages this whole time and you chose to ignore it. I think this is a really important part of the work for all of us, because we can live such healthier and more connected lives if we start to learn to speak that language.
Right. So ladies, I hope you really heard that. I know you've all had an experience where you've let those messages go too far, and it can it'll just knock you out. It'll absolutely, eventually it will lay you down. But some of the strategies that Ali is talking about can, get you back faster. You don't have to have all that downtime. So another thing you said that really sparked a question for me, or an observation, is that how, sometimes we start something and we're very eager and excited about it and we love it, but somehow over time that dissipates, and then we wonder why we're doing it at all. What's been, how is that showing up for people, and what do you tell them when you kind of identify that?
Yeah. So my experience of that in working with the women that I work with, and myself personally, Brenda, has been a loss of connection with values. It's been, you generally know what you value, you know what's important to you, but maybe just not using those values as the guideposts along the way. I always say they're the light standards, right? And that's why we have values. They help keep us on the path we want to go on. And if we hit one of those values, if we feel like we go outside of what that means for us, well, then we're out of alignment. And sometimes when we don't pay attention to that, we can find ourselves quite misaligned in our lives. And I often think that's what's happened. I think we've just gotten a little bit unconscious, and not intentionally so. I think it's life, and I think that's part of the human experience. But I think also part of the human experience is finding our way back. So recognizing what those values are, getting reconnected with them, and really, really starting to understand what it is you bring to the world, what's special inside of you, and how you can harness that and live a happy and fulfilled life.
Are you generally able to get people back to finding the joy and love in what they were doing, or is it usually been there, done that, and ready to move on?
Oh, it's a good question. I'd say it's 50-50, because here's the thing, our values change throughout our lives. Some people's won't change much at all, but some people will go through major adversity, major inflection, major change in their lives. Their values are bound to change. You can't expect them to be the same person they were 5 years ago before X event, right? And so usually these big upheavals in our lives should be reminders to us that we need to sit down and reassess. This is the time to check in with ourselves, to say, hey, okay, so, learning was a big value to me before. Is that so important now? Or is there something that's actually standing out stronger? Is there another light standard I need to put down on my path right now that might help me along this new journey, right? This fork in the road that I'm now on. I think our purpose or our reason or our contribution will have many in our lives. And I think they will change based on the experience of our life. And the inflections that we go through. And I say this through personal experience and my own personal experience of that. And I definitely see that with the women that I'm working with too.
Yeah. So what about the women or anyone really that you kind of drill down to, they are doing what they're doing, be out of, not because they love it, and maybe they never did it, out of feeling like they need to provide, they need to support, they have responsibilities, they don't see a way to have fun and be passionate and make money. Have you had clients like that?
Yeah, for sure. I always say they feel obligated. I'm not sure why or how it happens. I think we've all been there in different to varying degrees in our lives, for sure. But I think that is a very interesting place when you start to feel obligated, because it can feel very scary, right? To make a change. And I'm sure you probably see this with some of the women that you work with that are going through these life changes, right? They're going through big things. And that change can seem really, really scary. I actually had lunch yesterday with a woman that I work with, and we were talking about change. And I said, here's the thing, though, the change feels so scary in the moment. It's because we don't know what's on the other side of it. But if we're willing to peel back the curtain, to take a little peep, lots of times we start to realize the new lens through which we can see the world on the other side of it is so powerful, right? And so it's getting past that initial like biological fear. And I think obligation is somehow linked to a fear of change personally.
Yeah, and just feeling kind of trapped in a situation with not knowing, not having the clarity of steps to take, or and the courage,
or feeling like other people control your life, right? You probably see that a lot too, right? So it's like, well, I can't make this change. I don't have the skills, I haven't whatever. And it's like, well, I get that that's going to be a difficult road, but you also can do anything you want if you choose, right? And we all get the choice we get to choose. Then I think that's one of the beautiful things about life,
Yeah, totally. It's beautiful. I think a lot of the women that I work with find themselves just completely focused on other people's priorities. Other people have completely, and we allow it, ladies, we allow it to schedule us so that we, don't have the time. We don't feel like we have the time because we are committed to other people's passions, other people's purpose, other people's priorities. So what do you tell that woman?
Well, let's start with that's what makes women beautiful. Because we're caring, compassionate, beautiful creatures. And I love that about women. So I just think there's a light and a dark side to everything. Yeah. And so I don't think we shouldn't be compassionate. I don't think we shouldn't care for other people. I think we bring so much to the world by doing that. I think there has to be balance. And I think we need to understand that in that balance, and when we find it, we can actually care more. We can give more. We can deepen those relationships. We can deepen that connection. When our battery is empty and we're just giving, and never filling our own battery or filling our own cup or leaning into our purpose, then it becomes really, really hard. And then caring for others then becomes carrying. And so now it's made a shift to that dark side, right? And so I think that that's a really important thing to remember and to ask yourself, am I caring about this person, or am I carrying this person because I feel like I have to? And even if you want to care, then you need to ask yourself, well, am I not filling my battery enough to do what I want to do for this person?
Right. And maybe is my carrying even really helping them? Yeah. Or am I really making them dependent or holding? So I love the way you put that.
Yeah, we could go down a rabbit hole if that was.
We could really go down a rabbit hole. Right? Yes, yes. We've been there, done that. Let's just not go back right now. So Allie, tell me, talk to the women out there who, it's probably really easy or easier as a professional woman to justify spending money on coaching, personal coaching and professional coaching. But what if it's more of a personal nature? And I know in my experience, a lot of women kind of just say, I can't take my family's money and spend it on me, or I can't justify, this just to make myself feel happier. What do you tell those women?
Well, I tell them that the ripple effect of their energy affects everything in their life. And so if they're currently super happy and feeling super satisfied, then they don't need it. But then I ask why we're having this conversation. There's obviously something misaligned, right? And I do position myself that I work with professionals, and I generally do, but I have the odd mother. Maybe was a professional before and is thinking about getting back into it and trying to figure that journey out, or, some different situations. So I think that it's really important to remember that the energy that you put out into the world, how you're feeling, is directly affecting yourself and the people closest to you. And so if you want to create a better experience for your family, you need to create a better experience first for yourself, and then that will translate. No question.
Right. Absolutely. I agree 100%. Thank you for that. So, here at Find Your Lady Tribe, it's really, I feel like we are a community to help connect women as a support system, and to teach the value of that connection and the value of having friendships and relationships with people who don't need anything from you. And so what's your spin, and what in your practice, what is your spin on those kinds of relationships, or do you work in that area?
I think that the social aspect of our life is huge. I think Brene Brown said it, but she said we're all hardwired for connection, right?
Yeah.
It is one of our deepest human needs to feel like we belong, like we have community, and like we have those social supports.
Mhm.
And they don't just show up when we need them. So I think, Brenda, what you do is so important, because I think as women, we need to know that, yes, we have busy lives. Yes, we have things going on, but we also need to set aside some time to work on our social community, to connect with other women, to develop those relationships, to share hugs, to share a glass of wine, to maybe complain once in a while, whatever it is. But just to have that outlet, I think it completely changes your perspective on your week when you can have the ability or the community around you to do those things. I know it's so impactful for me. Like, I love it so much, and I'm so grateful for the women in my tribe for sure.
Yeah. Did you ever go through a phase of your life when you had kind of, not distanced intentionally from your tribe or those women, but kind of like you got to a point where they really didn't know what was going on in your life, and you really didn't know what was going on in their lives?
Yeah, I mean, I think I've had a few times in my life. Like, I feel like after high school, I changed a lot. And so the women that were in my life in high school, I felt like I intentionally made a break and made new social circles. But even more recently, like 5 years ago, my husband suffered a brain injury.
Mhm.
And that was a really challenging time for us, obviously, as a couple and in our marriage and everything that was going on. And I became so hyper focused on caring for him that I didn't spend any time nurturing those relationships. And we became really disconnected. And some of those women, unfortunately, I'm not close with anymore, which makes me really sad. I also understand that this had to happen in my life, but it also has created space for new women to come in. So, okay, on the other end. But I think, again, maybe it goes back to this human condition thing, but I think we do kind of like flow a little bit with these things depending on what's happening in our lives. And I do feel like I was called to take care of him at that time. But looking back, I think I could have took better care of him if I would have took better care of myself. And so I think that's a really important reflection, right, from that time.
Yes.
And
What a wonderful observation. And absolutely, yes. That's, yeah. Sorry, you're right on there, Allie. I feel you there. And I kind of went through the same things in my life, and just realized that, yeah, all that feeling lost didn't have to happen, and don't want it to happen anymore,
Yes, totally,
So,
totally. And if you have the right, you probably already teach this and talk about this stuff, but if you have the right women, for the most part, they'll be there in the long run, right? They'll wait. They'll still love you. They'll still, when you go see them again 6 months later, they'll be like, "Oh my God, I missed you so much. And I'm so happy to see you. We have to drink a whole bottle of wine." Right?
absolutely.
But so, yeah, so that's why, going back to what I was talking about with your values and knowing who you are is so important, because you attract those people to you, and then you create this beautiful community around you. And that's how this really great tribe gets built. Right.
Right.
So
Absolutely. Yes. So Allie, tell us a little bit about transcendent leadership, and maybe in relation, how can we relate that to our personal lives?
sure. Yeah, I think this is really important, and it actually does relate to your personal life. I talk a lot about personal life with the women that I work with, because again, it's all integrated. But there's these two kind of thoughts. Like, if people are teaching you about leadership, they'll talk about being a boss versus being a leader. And so I like to talk about transactional versus transformational. So quite often we go in and we start leading and we're transactional. We have a checklist. We got to get things done. We got to pay the bills. We got to pay the employees. We got to whatever, right? Keep the store open, keep the rent going, get the customers through the door. It's very check the boxes.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the first stage of leadership. And once we get a really good grasp on that, we have the opportunity to move into transformational leadership. And this is where we start working with people. This is where we start connecting. This is where we start deepening relationships. This is where we start to see that something more is possible than a checklist, and that we don't have to live a checklist every day. Now, the checklist is important. Don't get me wrong, because it's the fuel for the fire, right? If you don't do business, you don't have a business, right? So, but the important thing to remember is that checklist will get done when you're a transformational leader. And I think this happens in life. I think this happens in business. I don't think it really matters, but when we start to live in that transformational place, that's when we can start to have a blend of the two and come to what I call transcendent leadership. And this is where we start to work towards something bigger. We all feel like we're doing something that's contributing to the world as a whole, that's making the world a better place, that's helping people live better lives. That's, I'm getting excited about it, but it's like this thing, right? And we can feel it in our life. We can feel this at work. We can feel this in all different areas if we start to connect with this idea that if we move out of the checklist and try to spend more time connecting, try to spend more time with people, see the value in life and in the human aspect, then we can really start to see what's beyond that for us.
Oh, that sounds fantastic. I get it. Transcendent, yes, but beyond transactional and transformative, and yes, I'm loving that. I'm loving the feeling of that. Tell us now about the Inspired Leader.
Sure. Yeah. So, the Inspired Leader is amazing. So for the past 17 years, I've been working in the hospitality industry, and I was so blessed to be a part of that. So I've been a partner in 15 restaurant franchise locations, which is like insane. So huge, I will say it's my PhD in life was doing that. And that's really what brought me to the Inspired Leader, because I've been mentoring and developing leadership content for over a decade. So I have models that are completely Inspired Leader created, original models, and I work with women with these models. So I offer a 6-month in-depth leadership development program for women called the Inspired Women Leadership Collective, where each month we have a different theme. So maybe you're working on discovering who you are. Maybe you're working on mastering your inner world. Maybe you're working on connection and relationships and transcendent, like I said. And so we work through all these pieces together. And then at the end, we get together for a big in-person retreat, which is super fun. And just get to kind of have this experience together through learning and growing and connection and collaboration and creating a community of women, tribe, if you will. I know that's your word, but a tribe, and that these women can have each other, right? Yeah. They can support each other. We can all support each other and grow together and really work to become the type of women and leaders that the world most needs now, for sure.
It's so needed. It's such important work that you're doing, Ali. I'm going to put all your links in the body of the episode here on YouTube and also in the podcast that goes out. But how do our listeners find you?
Well, you can find me at theinspiredleader.com. I also am on social media. So I'm on Instagram at @AliStone __. I have the Inspired Leader on Facebook, on LinkedIn. So so there's lots of places you can connect with me, but the website's always the best place. And actually my next program starts in October, so it's not too far away. So we're gearing up for that right now.
Wonderful, wonderful, awesome. So we always like to leave our listeners with some call to actions, a challenge, or just something that they can immediately implement in their life to work towards their joy and wholeness. What do you got for us?
Well, I think since we started with talking about overwhelm, I think I'll throw a call to action in about that because it's real, it's relevant. We go through it all of the time. So if you're feeling like you're overwhelmed right now, if you're feeling like you're struggling to get done what you want to do, if you're starting to feel like you're tipping over that stress point, I would suggest you sit down and take an energy inventory. Ask yourself if the things that you're doing are giving you energy or taking energy away. If they're taking energy away, I really encourage you to sit down and reassess as to whether or not you can delegate that, change the way you do it, or figure out just how to get rid of it forever. Maybe it doesn't even need to be done. Maybe you're forcing yourself. But by doing the things that are taking your energy away, it's only amplifying stress and overwhelm. I understand that there are things we have to do, but we can often get creative and find new and innovative ways to do things that can inspire and motivate us to keep building that energy in our day and our lives. And that in turn will give us more to give, right? Like we want to, like how women want to care. And yeah, I think that's a good call to action. It's easy. You really don't have to think about it too much. But if you're feeling that, ask yourself that question. Is it giving me energy or is it taking away? And what am I going to do about it?
Yeah, I love it. An overwhelm inventory, ladies. An overwhelm inventory. And sometimes you just have to say no, right?
Yeah, totally. And that's okay.
That's awesome. Excellent. So, Allie, tell everyone here, how do you tribe?
Oh my gosh. How do I tribe? Many different ways, which I love. I think that's super fun. I think that my most favorite way to tribe is over wine. You know, I love connecting. I love great food. I'm a restaurant girl. But I also really like the experience with other women of like a weekend away or a little like retreat or a hike in the mountains or something like that. I always think that's such a beautiful, really intimate experience that I have with other women every once in a while that really fills my cup. So I love to tribe that way as well.
Oh, I love it. I love all those things. I wish we lived closer. Like we said earlier, we're going to be connecting.
We are, yes.
We're going to be connecting in person sometime. So, gosh, Allie, when 3 or more gather, we are tribe, and we are just so honored to have you here with us today. It's been such a pleasure, and I can't wait to have that glass of wine with you one day.
Me too. It'll be wonderful. Thanks, Brenda. Thank you for sharing your heart with me today. I appreciate it.
Me too. Absolutely. Bye-bye. Thank you so much for joining us today for Find Your Lady Tribe. Would you do us a favor and hit that like button and add a comment? It'll really help us grow.
Better yet, find the share arrow and share out to your tribe. Join us again next week on YouTube or your favorite podcast service.